Cool. Okay. I'm looking through our questions here that really, again, for better or for worse, zoom into that legal and tax space. And I feel like we've sort of hit on those from a couple different angles. I think we've gone as far on those as we might want to, but I'll pause and see. Catherine, Atul, do you have any other spaces you want to investigate a little further with Will?
I don't think so. I mean, not for me. I feel like this is helpful just to hear sort of your experiences with two seemingly very different organizations and just sort of the challenges and the opportunities there. So I appreciate the time, and I found it really helpful.
No, for sure. I would say one more quick thing that I just thought of relating to tax. Another pain point that often happens, and I felt personally, was most of these organizations have a lot of expats working in multiple jurisdictions, and the process of filing taxes in the U.S., given all the travel and living abroad, and like kind of it's just a nightmare, and takes like three days of effort to kind of make sure that you're doing the right paperwork. So that's another area I think that's a big pain point for a lot of charities.
Got it. Yep, it's sort of the expat personal tax filing issues.
One other question, as you were talking about, I was listening intently around some of the strategy consulting fees and some of the overhead costs. What do you feel like, what are those areas where they sort of spend is justified, like among the community of charitable and nonprofit organizations? It's like you don't scrimp on X. Like I always feel like I don't scrimp on doctor fees. Like I will pay what it takes for my kids to stay healthy. What are those things where you feel like for those organizations that they tend just not to scrimp on?
Yeah. So as it relates to management consulting or general overhead?
General overhead.
Yeah, I would say safety number one. So like the Gates Foundation contracts with like International SOS, which is a little bit expensive, but it's a very high-end safety firm. And then there are certain rules that are just like non-starters. Like for example, in 2014-15, Nigeria was pretty dangerous. So in order to go to Nigeria, any program officer would have to have security detail, which came out to like $10,000 a day. Obviously super expensive, and they encourage you not to go to Nigeria. But if you were to go, that was like a non-starter. You just had to spend that much money. You just had to stay in certain hotels just to for safety reasons.
Okay.
So that's one thing that was pretty important.
Got it. That's really helpful. I mean, and I am assuming things like even supply chains and stuff like that, like understanding all of that would fall into that sort of if you think broadly around de-risking the operation.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Gates Foundation is unique in that it doesn't manage supply chains itself. It gives money to the grantees, and the grantees manage supply chains. So I imagine within the grants there are certain things that are like non-starters. Measurement's a big one. Gates has a reputation for also encouraging grantees to spend more money, or a bigger portion of the grant, on measurement, tracking, and evaluation than they necessarily might have thought of earlier. I wouldn't say it's kind of a non-starter, but Gates definitely cares a lot about that.
Interesting. Okay. That's helpful.
Excellent. Great. And was there anything else on your side, Atul?
Nope. This is a great conversation. Good themes to go after. Nothing more from my side.
Okay, great. And then my last question that I always like to ask is, Will, as you heard the topics that we were interested in today, was there anything that you had hoped we would ask about or you thought we should ask in the future as we dig in?
That's a good question. So just so I understand the scope of your work, you're trying to understand the pain points of different charities and how Thomson Reuters' current products could fit into that?
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
Okay.
We're thinking about how our tools can best help us partner better with nonprofits.
Yeah. I guess when I heard that, one of my initial thoughts was, oh, this is really interesting, because for most nonprofits, big or small, what happens is you end up cobbling together a lot of different systems and softwares just because you're going for you're piecing together things that you got for free and things that are cheap and things that are locally relevant. And these systems don't speak to each other in any way, and it becomes this ridiculously cumbersome process where certain HR records are in one place and certain payroll records are in a different place, and they're just not compatible.